Good morning, everyone. Sorry for my lateness here. We have a bit of a snag this morning. Of course, it always happens when it's on live. One of the cameras decided not to work today, so we're going to only have this one camera operating. And I apologize that, but there's going to be a lot of camera movements in this. But we are here, we are live, and we are chatting away, I see. So let me just kind of go through real quickly, see who's here. Good morning, Remo J. How are you? How's Dad? I hope Dad's okay. Kim Burris, good morning to you, or good afternoon, I should say. Vicky Lemire is here. Joyce Hernandez is here. Emily's here. Hey, Emily. Patty G, good morning or good afternoon, wherever you may be. Nancy Gus is here. Barb McKinley, hello, Barbara. KD Crafts is here, good morning. Dale Ramsey from Down Under, hello, Dale. And Melissa Page is here. She's enjoying the music. Hey, Vivian, I see you there. Good morning to you, or good afternoon, wherever you may be in this world. Let's see, who did I miss? Someone? My quilting wife. Hey, Tiffany. And Miss Ellen Campbell. Hello and good afternoon. Happy Father's Day, by the way, to all the fathers out there. Okay, so I'm not sure if, well, the camera may want to all of a sudden work, but right now the camera is not working, and so I'll be a little discombobulated for the time being. But let's see. Today we are going to be doing block number 46. What did I title this? 46, yep, 46 of the 52 blocks, 52-week series. And so I figure we haven't done this. Let's make a Dresden block. Now, this is the sample block that I made. And I was gonna, well, good thing I didn't actually stitch it to the background just yet, but this would have been the full block had it been stitched down to the background. And so Dresden blocks can tend to grow or be really big. I didn't want to make too huge of a block, so I was kind of contemplating maybe making just a quarter of a Dresden or maybe half of a Dresden, but then I said, let's just make the full thing, because I started having fun making them. And so here's my Dresden block. Now there's a few things that I did learn making this block, and I'll share some pointers as to what I've learned. I know a lot of you have made Dresdens before, so in the comments or in the chat as we are sewing, if you got suggestions on what to do or how you do it, put them in the chat. Let's kind of share some ideas about that. I will admit this is probably one of the first times that I've made a full Dresden like this. Usually when I make a Dresden, I usually make a quarter of a Dresden to make a fan block, or if I'm doing something like I don't know, half of a Dresden. But I've never really made, or I don't think I've ever made a full Dresden block. So this is my first time too, so I'm learning. Okay, so camera is gonna move. I'm sorry guys, but let me kind of switch it off right now. Can you guys hear me okay? I do see that the audio is working, but can someone just let me know that the audio is coming through okay? So, hello, Miss Sandy. I see you there. And good morning around to it. Whoops. Okay, thanks, Tiffany. So hold on a second. I am going to move the camera so that I'm going to move it down so that you can kind of see the workspace here. Don't mind my... Okay, good. It didn't pick up on it. Because I am wearing some shorts that are really, really short, but they're comfortable. Okay. So, again, I do apologize for this very awkward angle here, but this morning the overhead camera that's usually positioned right up there just decided not to work today. And so maybe it'll turn on sometime during the live. I hope it does at some point so you don't get this weird angle, but we make do. Okay, so let me get myself resituated here. Anybody have any plans for Father's Day? And I know a lot of you do follow Miss Tijuana, and I know a lot of you are part of the her Facebook group. They've been posting some very hilarious videos of what they've been doing on retreat. Okay, so to make this block, I got, first of all, this background square. This is going to be, I'm making it 10.5 inches, I believe. Yep, so I cut a 10.5 inch square. This is going to be the background. Now, you make this block your own. So if you don't want to do like the full Dresden plate here, you can go ahead and make a quarter of it. I was actually contemplating that because, well, to be quite honest, the Dresden's not really my favorite block because there's so many pieces involved. But if you want to make a quarter of the block, that's fine. Or if you want to just make the full block, that's also fine. You can make the blades any size length that you want. Just make sure that then if your background square, you cut it big enough so that it will it'll fit the full Dresden or the quarter Dresden or however you want to make it. I cut a 3-inch long Dresden blade. I'm using 2.5 inch strips since I had a bunch of these cut. So I'm going to use two different colored 2.5 inch strips, and these are the width of the fabric. And I did find that you pretty much use the entire strip. But if I only use 2 colors here. If you want to put more, go ahead. So again, 2.5 inch I'm using 2.5 inch strips by the width of the fabric. And again, it's kind of your choice if you want to make the full Dresden or if you want to make a quarter of the Dresden, or maybe you want to make half the Dresden. That's your choice, but adjust the background square or your background fabric to that size that you want. Okay, the inner circle, I used a 5-inch square and I traced, or I used a compass here to make a 4.5-inch in diameter circle. So when we get to that portion, I'll show you how I did that. Now, in terms of the Dresden template, let me put it on here so that you can kind of see it better. There's a bunch of these templated rulers out on the market. I actually found this one at Joann's. This is a 16-degree template ruler. The most common, there's different types of Dresdens, as I found out. And the two most common ones are the 16-degree and the 18-degree. The 18-degree, if you want to do the full Dresden, that 18-degree Dresden, you'll need 20 of these individual blades. The 16, you're going to need 22 of them. There's also a 36 and a 45 that's also out there on the market. With those, I think you only need, for the 36, I think it's 8, and for the 45, I think it's 4, if I'm not mistaken. I'm just going off the top of my head. But point being, there are different size rulers and different degrees. And when I say different degrees, I mean the angle cut here on the size is going to be a little different. Choose whichever ruler you want to, or whichever ruler that you have. Now, if you don't want to purchase one of these acrylic or plastic rulers, there are some paper templates that you can download from the internet. Quilt Maker magazine does have one that is a 18-degree ruler, or 18-degree Dresden. So if you want to make the full Dresden, you'll be cutting 20 of the blades. But just find whichever Dresden, or if you have a Dresden template, use whatever you got. Or if you don't want to buy one of these, you can you can look on the internet, just Google search Dresden templates, and there's a number of them that are free to download, and you can print it out and just use those paper templates to cut out your Dresden blades. It's 1:30 in the morning in Australia, where Dale is, so he is totally a night owl. Well, thank you for joining, Dale. And for most of us in the US, I'm not sure if people know, but tomorrow is the very first year where we will be celebrating Juneteenth. It's a new holiday that just got approved last year, so most of us are not working tomorrow. Yay for Juneteenth. Hello, Sophia. Glad you made it. Okay. So I'm going to take my 2.5-inch strips. I'm going to cut, well, I do have them here on the fold. And I'm going to take these two and fold them in half again here. So I got the fold, and I also got the selvage edges here. And I am going to just trim that portion off. Then I will turn this around, see if I can do this effectively. So I actually got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 layers here. Wow. Okay. I'm cutting 6 layers. I'm being brave today. And since this camera situation got me all flustered, I'm taking my aggression out on the cutting. Now I'm actually going to subcut this entire strip into 3-inch size blades here. So there we go. There's one. And so I'm subcutting the entire strip into 2.5 by 3-inch blades here. And since I'm just gonna make a full Dresden, I'm gonna need, for my template ruler, I'm gonna need 22 of them. Again, just depending upon the size Dresden ruler that you're gonna use, you're gonna be cutting out different numbers, or subcutting different numbers, or subcutting different amounts, I should say. Here we go. Okay. And let's see, that's, how much did I say? 2, 4, 6. Ooh, that was 8 layers actually. So 8. Can I get one more out of this? I probably won't need it, but it's good to have just in case. Or I can always cut this to a 2.5 inch later on. Remo, we are going to do a Zoom call for June. It's just that with everything that happened for me personally, with me going home back to Hawaii, and then me coming back, and then everyone going on the tea retreat, we're going to do it. I kind of decided to say we'll do the Zoom call next week. So that everyone's kind of, all the excitement and all the activities are kind of done for the month. And so it's not canceled, but it's postponed till next week. So I will be putting an announcement both on my Facebook group as well as T Quilts' Facebook group for the link and the information. Depending on how tomorrow goes, I may just kind of pop on live, or maybe do a Zoom thing. So but I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure about that. But just pay attention to the announcements on the Facebook, or on my Facebook group, as well as T Quilts' Facebook group. So I got my individual blades all cut again. So I took a 2.5 inch strip, subcut it to 3 inches long here. And now this is where I'm going to use the Dresden template ruler. I'm going to start stacking each of these individual strips. Ooh, I didn't cut the selvage off of that, but that'll be fine. I'll just use that. And I'm going to stack it up 4 at a time here. And looks like I didn't do too good of a job cutting it, but that's okay. Then with this Dresden, I'm going to put the top edge here at the 3 inch mark on the ruler, and the bottom should be about where the edge of the template is. It's a little bit off, but I'm not going to worry about that. When I line it up, I'm lining up the edge of the ruler here to the corner of the fabric, so I don't have that much to cut off, but I'll slice that part off. Now this is where I'm kind of wondering if somebody's got a tip on how to line up the ruler better, because I can cut this right side of the fabric off, but me cutting it back this way, yeah, that's not a good thing. So what I ended up doing was just kind of turning it around, flipping the ruler this way, and then relining everything. But I don't like doing that, especially because of the fact that sometimes, or anytime you shift the fabric midway through, there's always the potential of things shifting around. So does anybody have any other better way of cutting or lining up the ruler so that you can actually cut both sides of the Dresden better? One thing you can do is if you do have like a charm square. Do I have a charm square? So instead of using a 2.5-inch strip, you could use like a 5-inch square like this. I do know that you can measure out your blade. Let me angle that better so that whatever size blade you, or whatever length blade you want, you can cut it here. When you do cut it this way, and then you cut your edge along here, you just turn the ruler, line up the cut edge of the ruler, or the cut edge to the ruler, and then you can cut your next blade and do that. Okay, Jeannie Wallen says she'll use a spinning mat. Oh, that's a good idea. I should have thought of that. Cheryl Clute, 2 ways, either a small mat you can turn and rotating mat. Okay. Emily, hello Emily, didn't see you come in. She uses a second ruler, butt it against the Dresden ruler, then move it away. Ah, okay. Let's try. Well, I do have this purple mat here, so 2. And then we'll do 2 here. Okay, let's try, first of all, let's use the spinning mat method. Okay, so I'm gonna line this up. 3 inches there. Cut that side off, lift it up, and I'm turning it around. Turn the ruler around as well. Okay, that'll work. And we still got a nice Dresden blade cut. Let's see, that's 8. Now, 20 or 22 does seem like a lot of pieces, but when you stack it up and you cut multiples at the same time, it really goes by pretty quickly. Okay, now let's do using a second ruler. Where did I put my Dresden ruler? There it is. So I am going to measure it. Okay, we'll cut this side of it. Then I'm going to leave the ruler there for a second. I'll grab a secondary ruler, hold down the Dresden ruler, and I'm just butting up this square ruler right up to that Dresden ruler. Then I can take the Dresden ruler away and then make my cut. And then I still come out with a nice Dresden blade. Thank you, Miss Emily. I think I like that. Actually, I think I was so flustered with this camera situation that I didn't think of that. So thank you for reminding me of that. Okay, that's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 2, 4, 6. Then, yeah, 2, 4, 6. So I need we'll need a few more. I'll do all four of these. And I'll take the smaller ruler, butt it up right up against there. And voila, we have our next ones. And I'll do 4 of these this time. Do, 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 do. Put that down. Oh, shift it a little bit. Okay. Realign it. Cut it. Okay. Again, you don't have to do a 3-inch or 3-inch length blade. You can do 4 inches. You could do 5 inches. I'm just doing a 3-inch blade because I didn't want a humongous block. But if you want to make a bigger block, go ahead and do so. Just make sure that whatever size background fabric you are using, you adjust the size of the square so that you can fit the entire block. And I will cut the last of these. Burris says, I'd like to have a big Dresden ruler by Creative Grids. You can make up to a 24-inch blade with it. Wow. A 24-inch blade. That'll be a 48, possibly a 50-inch block. That'll be a very big size quilt. Wow. But hey, like they say, go big or go home, right? And with these extra pieces, well, this piece is a little too small, so I'm just trashing this. But with this, I think I might be able to salvage it, so I'm putting it in my crumb bin for a rainy day. Okay, last set. Chain. Cut that part off. Oops, didn't quite get it there. And we'll trim that part off. There we go. So let's put all the rulers away, since we won't need all of this now. Okay, so there's 4. How hot is it here? You know, in Southern California, I think it's been averaging about 70 degrees. Let me see if I can, yep. Well, it's still early in the morning, so right now it's at 67. It hasn't hit the real summer temperatures yet, though. Usually around in the summer, it can get into the 90s. In some areas, it can go over 100 degrees. Yeah, but it's not that hot yet. It was quite, well, it wasn't hot in Hawaii, but it was very, very humid. So could have been like 86 degrees, but it felt like 10,000 degrees and you sweat like crazy there, which is why one of the things that I don't like about going back home. And even at like something like 70 degrees or 75 degrees, that's considered very cold in Hawaii. But even then, um, I will sweat like no tomorrow. Okay, so that's 4, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I do have some extra pieces here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So since I'm only using 2 different colors, I do need a total of 22 blades. Because this Dresden ruler is a 16-degree ruler, so I need a total of 22 to make a full Dresden. I'm pulling out 11 each of these, or I need 11 cuts, 11 blades of each color total. Now again, you don't have to use 2 colors. You can do a multicolored thing. Okay. Let's see, what are people saying? That way of cutting is working great. Yes, it is. Thank you, Miss Emily, for sharing that. Heather Grint says, yeah, that's a big Dresden. Yeah, that's a very big Dresden. Kimber says, my local quilt shop carries Creative Grid rulers and templates. I like Creative Grid rulers and their templates, which is why I tend to just buy any ruler that I buy. I try to use the Creative Grids rulers. I do like them. They come in varying sizes. I don't really care for their specialty rulers, though. That's one thing I think Creative Grids does not. Well, they make a good quality ruler, but for whatever reason, I just don't like using some of their specialty rulers. For example, when I took a look at their pineapple block ruler, there's a lot of twisting and turning that they do, which for me, I don't like doing. But for regular just cutting strips and squares, I do like their rulers just for that purpose, though. Hello, Kathy Quilts. And Tiffany says, I made a huge Dresden with a 9-inch blade. I never finished it, but it's almost done. It's like 60 inches. Wow. 60 inches a block? That's big. Or is it 60 inches total quilt size? Let's see if I can actually do this. No, I gotta actually do it in live. Let's see. Good morning, Miss Nancy. Yeah, it'll be different, Heather. Okay, you guys are all talking to each other. Great. Okay, so now that we got all of our blades cut, in order to get that pointed top, and most of you probably know this, but this point here, in order to actually get the top to be pointed like that, what I'm going to do is with each of these blades, I'm going to just fold it right sides together in half, and along the long edge, which will be the top, along this edge here, I'm going to just do a 1/4 inch stitch. So the unit will look something like that when it's done. Where's the camera? There it is. So I stitched down a 1/4 inch right there, that black line. I don't know if you can see that. Somewhat of a 1/4 inch. So we're gonna stitch it on top, a 1/4 inch along the top. And this is where chain piecing comes in hand, because you just keep on stitching. Every time I say chain stitch, I always think of that Aretha Franklin song. Was it Chain of Fools? Chain of Stitches. Chain, 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 chain stitching. Sorry, I know my voice is very horrible. Heather, it's probably this microphone. Let me turn up the volume here for a second. Thank you for pointing that out. I'm not using my my lavalier mic, which I normally just kind of clip to my shirt. But whenever I do a live, I do use a different type of mic, and it might just be that this microphone is a little bit different, or I might not be. Is that better? Let me know if that does sound better here, because I noticed that the mic wasn't angled correctly. Okay, sorry about that audio. So is the sound better? Yeah, I can see that the volume level's a lot large. Okay, thank you, Nancy. Yeah, when I shoot a video, I use a different style mic because I have a different system that actually picks up the audio sound. But whenever I do a live, that same microphone cannot be used on a live broadcast, which is why I have to default to this other microphone here. And then it does not pick up on audio as good because the microphone's very far away from my face. So that's part of the issue. But I'm looking into a different microphone setup. Okay. And I'm not even counting. I am not even counting how many blades I did. Okay, wait, let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 1, 2. Okay, 7. Well, actually, I already separated the ones that I needed and the ones that I don't, so not sure why I'm even worrying about that. Okay. Dun dun dun. Chain of piecing. Chain, 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 chain. Do, 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 do. I'm a little weird in that respect because I start singing songs to myself. Normally, I do have a radio playing in the background. Whenever I'm sewing something. And that's just background noise to me. I'm usually not really paying attention to it. or I will be playing something on Netflix. Um, yeah, watching my Golden Girls. Or recently, I've been watching this show on Netflix called Bridgerton. I know some of you probably caught that because I did see that on a live chat once that someone says that they've been watching that while they sew. So I started watching it. And I'm not one to enjoy British dramas, but this one I do like. Hi, Cindy. Cindy from sunny Vermont. And it's 65 degrees there. Wow. Oh, Terry, you like that show too. Yeah, Bridgerton. Um, what was the other one? The Viking show. I can't remember the name of it, but there is another show that I do watch on Netflix. It's about a bunch of Vikings. Oh, Valhalla. Oh, poor Heather. You're melting in Texas. Oh boy. Hey, Stephanie. Stephanie, that is Memoirs of a Long Arm Quilter. Um, how you doing, girl? And let me just sew off a piece of scrap. So I got my little Dresden garland going on here. All is this 22? 2, 3, 4. Well, we'll find out. Okay. And I'll take my little tool there. Oh, the plane from Australia is coming in. I don't know if you can hear that in the background. There's a flight, a Qantas airline flight that comes directly in from Sydney. It usually comes in the morning. And that's the one plane where it's a two-story plane. So when you board the plane, if you're in the first class section, you're on the top end of the plane, in which you actually do have to go up a stairwell to actually board the plane from the jetway. And that plane is humongous. And so the jet engines are very, very loud, and you can hear them from miles and miles away. And since I'm in the landing path of Los Angeles International Airport here, every time that plane passes by or comes in for a landing, or even when it takes off, yeah, all the residents here know it. Okay, so what I'm doing is I got all of the, let me rewind for those that came back or came in late. I did cut a Dresden blade. This is 3 inches long. Along the top edge here, or the wider edge, I did sew it or fold it in half. Did a 1/4 inch stitch along that longer edge or the top edge. And what I'm doing now is here is the opening, and this is the middle of what will be the blade. I'm actually cutting off the bulk here in the seam allowance along the top, but I'm cutting it at an angle so that, or I'm not just cutting the corner, I'm actually cutting at an angle. And I did find that that actually helps so that when you turn it, it helps to create that point a little better rather than just cutting that, just kind of cutting it at a 45-degree angle and cutting off that corner. So I'm just doing that to all of them. So again, this here is the open side, and this edge here is the middle of the what will be the Dresden blade. I'm cutting that corner off, but I'm cutting it at not your regular 45-degree angle. I'm actually cutting it to make it longer. And that's just to remove more of the bulk in the seam so that when you do turn it in, flip it out, you can get a better point. Okay, so I'll do that to all of the rest of these. So what is everyone working on this Sunday morning or this Sunday afternoon or this Sunday evening, wherever you may be in the world? Dale says, I just found out Kevin Costner is a fantastic singer all these years, and I did not know. I didn't know that either. Let's see, Sophie, may I ask what the measurement is for the top and bottom of the wedges, please? It really depends on what size Dresden ruler that you got. So when I cut, I started off with a 2.5-inch strip by the width of the fabric. Now when I cut it, I just there along the Dresden ruler there's varying sizes, and these sizes refer to what length of blade that you want to make. So I was making a 3-inch blade, and naturally whatever template you use, it's going to naturally adjust the bottom and the top. So it's not really going to be a matter of measuring what length this bottom edge is here, because it's going to just keep a consistent angle on the sides, which is why I didn't mention what this bottom edge or what this top is here. But if you really do want to know, the bottom is 1 inch and the top looks to be a 2-inch, or maybe 1 1 1/8 actually, to be a little bit more exact. Okay, so again, depending upon which Dresden or the ruler itself, you don't necessarily, if you have one of these templates, you don't necessarily have to worry about how big the bottom or the top is. Just go along with whatever the ruler is. What you do have to worry about is what size blade that you're going to be using, and that's usually the line that you will measure or use to line up when you measure or when you cut your blades. You usually use that measurement and cut the blade, and you don't necessarily have to worry about how big or how small your top and bottom is. Kim says she's waiting on company. I'm working on the last week's flower. Okay, that's Tiffany. It's Father's Day in the UK. It is Father's Day here in the US too. And let's see, Judy Smith, I've been sewing lately, been working. Oh, she hasn't been sewing lately. She's been working full time. Yeah, Judy, I hear you, because I do also work full time, and sometimes you just can't make it into your sewing room. Cutting fabric for Teresa Louise's live stream project, the Sew Together bag. Okay, that was Patty G. Okay, Sophia says, I understand I have a 10 and a 30-degree ruler. Okay. Dale Ramsey says, I've been a huge fan of his for years. Hey, Dale, what's your favorite Kevin Costner movie then? Mine is actually Dances with Wolves. And Memoir, Stephanie says, I'm shopping online for some Moda marble fabrics for a wall hanging I want to work on. Oh, interesting. Father's Day is not until September in Australia. That's interesting. Okay, so now that we got all of the top, I missed this one. Okay, so we're gonna turn these inside out. So what I'm gonna do then, as you already saw me do this, but I'm gonna make it so that we're gonna turn the point out, or turn that pointed top right side out. And I got this, I don't know what this is called, but this actually came in the packaging for the Dresden ruler, and you basically use it to kind of point or push out the point at the top. Okay. And then try to line your seam here in the back towards the middle of the blade. And also, what I did notice is sometimes if I didn't turn out the point correctly, or if I didn't kind of poke out the point here, sometimes I may have actually shortened the blade. And so, or I don't get the full length of the blade. So I take a little peek, make sure that the point is going right up to where the seam starts. Right, then I will finger press that down. Is my iron on? No, let me turn on the iron. Okay, so got that one. Terry says she just woke up 30 minutes ago. Well, good morning, Terry. Bodyguard is one of my favorites. Oh, I didn't think of the Bodyguard. Oh, Terry's not feeling good. Okay. I hope you feel better. And Terry says, I made my first quilt with 6 Dresdens. That'll teach me. Yes, Terry, congratulations. I still have actually to make a full Dresden quilt. And the Dresden block is not really one of my favorites, but I figured since we're going for variety in this whole series, let's make a Dresden. Now, I have made half Dresdens. I've made quarter Dresdens, but for other blocks and on other quilts, but I never really did do a quilt of just nothing but Dresdens. Okay, we'll hit these with the iron for now. says, now, I'm not a real big Dresden block fan simply because of the fact of how many pieces there are to make one Dresden, but it does go by pretty quickly. I will say that, which kind of surprised me actually, because you can chain stitch everything down, or all the different pieces. Oh, come on. Get that point out. Tiffany says I made so many Dresden quilts. I love the look, but I also love the process. You know, I love the look of the Dresden. I'm not sure about the process though. But that's just me. That's just how I operate. Kim is saying the scene in Dances with Wolves where they show that huge herd of bison. I knew the man who owned that herd. He bought some of them from the sale barn where I worked. Oh. That's an interesting fact. I heard when they were making that movie, they actually, in some of the shots, they actually used mannequins or fake bison because they didn't feel like they had enough. Part of the DVD behind the scenes portion. Kim says that she's made 3 Dresden quilts. Okay. I gotta get on the Dresden bandwagon and do my first one then. Yeah. Not sure what it is about Dresden's that, well, maybe it's just the amount of pieces that you gotta do, but yeah, for the longest time I just didn't like making Dresdens. I, of course, would do quarter Dresdens, and I did half Dresdens, but not a Dresden, or not a quilt with all full Dresden blocks, or Dresden plates, as they call it. I've got Dresden blocks made, just got to sew them together. Okay. Let's poke. Yeah. Hi, Damali. I like this block and have it on my bucket list. Hey. Okay, let's get this one off that bucket list, or check marked off that bucket list, Damali. Okay, let's talk afterwards, Tiff. Yeah, me and Tiffany were talking on Facebook Messenger the other night. And I was like, I need one more block to complete the series because I already got the next, what is it, 7 more blocks planned, but I need one more, and then we can call this series done, and then, or I don't know if that's what you were talking about, Tiff, but, well, let's talk afterwards. My first Dresden was the Checkered Dresden by Jenny Doan. Next was a small one, and the third was one from ZT. And Heather Grin says, I'm just happy I've made progress on my current project. Oh, yeah, I need to get going on some other projects too. Remo J says, I've made a Dresden footstool. There is a correct name for it, but I drew a blank. I think I know which one you're talking about. Oh, it's a tuffet. Yeah, that's the one. Okay. I think this is the most time-consuming part of this whole block process, is just kind of getting these points pointed out. If you don't have a tool like this, just using a blunt, if you have a scissors with a blunt point, you could use that. You could use a barbecue stick. I've used even my stiletto. Just make sure that you're not poking a hole through the point. But again, there's the my favorite purple thing. That's another tool. What do you guys use to poke out your points? Okay, taking these to the iron. I'm gonna hit this with the iron real quick. Let me shift the microphone so you can at least still hear me. You might not see me on camera. I'm still here. Okay, I'm just ironing out all these Dresden blades and making it so that the points do come out a little bit more flat in this. I do find that ironing it instead of finger pressing it down does help a little. This is just me. That's just my own personal preference. But if you're comfortable with just finger pressing that top down, hey, by all means, just finger press it down. Just do whatever you feel comfortable with. Joyce Baker says she has a purple thing. And Kim says she uses a crochet hook. Oh, I did not think of using a crochet hook. Okay. Tiffany, for me, it was 22 blades. That's because I do have the 16 degrees ruler. If you got the 18, then it's probably just 20 blades. Did I say 16? No, I meant to say 22 blades. Okay. And I see that my camera still didn't turn on. Or the other camera still didn't turn on. Bummer. I worked 56 hours this week. Just want to sew and watch other people sew. Wow. I know the feeling, Joyce. And then she says, I have used a knitting needle too to turn out her points. Never thought of using a knitting needle. I know I have some somewhere. Hello, Elizabeth Collins from Atascadero. Is that Northern California? Or is that closer to San Diego? Atascadero. Never heard of that. Hey, Lisa. Good morning. Okay, so we are back at the sewing machine. Okay, so we got 22 of these blades, and I got actually a few extra here. So this should be 22. I counted 11 each. So if I don't have 22, then I'm not an accountant. I'm a creative accountant, let's just say that. Chopstick has always worked for me. Yep, I use that too as well, Terry. I'm in Central California, about 15 miles east of Morro Bay. Oh, okay. Oh, so you're close to Rob Appel. Quasi-coastal north of Pismo Beach. Okay, gotcha, Elizabeth. Okay, let me sort out my colors here. There we go. And then I should have 11 of each of these. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yep, I do have 11, and then I got a few extra. So there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Why do I only have 8? I need 3 more. Okay, so I'll just do these quickly. And why can I not get that? Okay, there. Whoops. And okay, so I'm going to get started on this process. So I'm just going to take one of each, put it right side together. And for me, or at least for me, that's not a good pressed one. Having the same color on the top, if you're only doing 2 colors, if you're doing a multicolored thing, then this will be totally out the door. But for me, whenever I have 2 colors, or I'm only working with 2 colors, I always put the same one on the top if I'm going to sew them in pairs. That way I don't get the pairs mixed up when I start sewing them together. Okay, yes, these are small blades, but just think of this though. The bigger I make the blade, or the longer I make the blade, the bigger the block. And in the whole spectrum of the entire series, the 52 blocks, 52 weeks, I didn't want to make another humongous block. So I wanted to kind of keep this contained to about a 10-inch or a 12-inch block. So that's why I'm calling for smaller pieces. Of course, whenever you make your own block, you can just make it any size that you want to. Just understand that the bigger your Dresden blades are going to be, the bigger the overall size of the block is going to be. So just keep that in mind. Now, one thing I did notice, and this was actually a good suggestion that I saw on, what was it, TikTok. When you do a Dresden, this person actually, when she started sewing her Dresden blades together, she didn't start stitching from the edge. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch on a 1/4 inch on this edge, but when you start your stitch, start it a little bit ways in, back stitch, then go forward. And what that'll do, whoops, is it'll prevent the thread tails from happening. I'm not sure if you can see that, but right about there, if the camera's going to pick it up, you won't get these thread tails to snip off later on. Okay, so I'm gonna, again, when I line it up, I'm gonna start a little bit ways in. I'll show you this up if the camera will. After I stitch these together, I'll show you what I mean. Oh, I gotta sew off. Where's my little scrap? So pick those pieces off. I'm gonna lift up. I'm gonna start a little bit ways in. Sorry, I know you probably can't see this on the camera, but I'll show it to you. Oh, gotta reset it because my blades came apart. You can use pins if you want to. I just don't. I'm gonna back stitch a few stitches, then go forward. Okay, and putting the darker one on the top, just keeping that consistent. Line it up. Okay, we're going to back stitch a little bit, then go forward. Okay, so let's see if we can do that. So you see at this point there is no thread tail here. I'm not sure if you can, well, the camera can kind of pick up on it, but there's no thread tail there at that crevice. And what I did was, again, I started a little bit ways down to about here, back stitched to the edge, and then stitched all the way down. That prevents, like here at the bottom, you can kind of see that thread tail, sort of. Let's see, does that help? Let's see if I put up the design board here. There is a bit of a thread tail there at the bottom, and having a thread tail at the bottom doesn't really, because it's going to get covered up. I'm not so concerned about that thread tail. The one I'm concerned about is the thread tail that would be here, because this will actually show in the final block. So what I did was I started a little bit ways down, started my stitches right about here, back stitched it to the edge, then stitched all the way down to the bottom. And that prevents the little thread tail from appearing right there, so that when you do open it up, you know, you don't see a thread sticking out here. Okay, in my sample block, there are a few spots in the sample block that I sewn. Let's see, right here's one. I didn't quite clip the thread, or didn't quite get it all the way down to the thread. So when I started a little bit ways in, back stitched, and then sewn all the way down, these thread tails, these thread tails, yeah, this is what happens when I did not do that technique. So again, You can still just stitch it down regularly, but when you get your final block, you'll have this to deal with. And so again, if you start a little bit ways down, start your stitches, back stitch to the edge of the fabric, and then sew all the way down, it helps to prevent all these thread tails from showing like that. Just a quick tip. Well, not so quick tip to demonstrate, but something you might want to experiment with when you sew your next Dresden or when you're creating your own block. Okay. Okay, so I made some 5-inch blades, but put them away and now can't find them. I think we've all done that a few times, Kim. Dale says pretty colors together. Oh, thank you, Dale. Joyce Baker, Eric, is that a stiletto from T Quilts? Yes, it is, Joyce. The company is called, and I always run into them at various quilt shows. I do have their card here. The company is actually called Sawyer Creek Artistry. The thing is, though, that they do not have a website where you can order from them, and they don't, they only sell at quilt shows. That's the issue. And so Tijuana, or T Quilts, she is one of the or she might be the only distributor of their products other than them going to a quilt show. So if you do want a stiletto this is a stiletto and seam ripper combination, as well as these are the wood press. If you do want these, you can look up T Quilts' website. It's tquilts.com, and she has a number of these stiletto, seam ripper, and wood press combinations or sets that you can purchase from her. But if you do go to one of the larger quilt shows, Houston, I think they go to Paducah as well. They might do some local shows. Like they do come out to one in California, but they don't have a website where you can just order directly from them. You do have to catch them at a quilt show or order from T Quilts. You could also just try calling them directly, but they usually are traveling out somewhere selling, so. Yep. Thank you, Tiffany. There's the link to T Quilts' website where you can order your own if you're interested. Okay, let's get this excess bulk off of here. Okay, so I got some of these sewn into pairs. Just pressing the seam allowance toward the darker fabric. So eventually it'll all be in the same direction. You can press the seam allowance open if you want to. I just don't find it beneficial to do so on this particular block. And it's a lot faster to just finger press it over to one side in this instance. So Okay, so I got them in pairs. When you get the pairs, you can sew them in fours. So again, I'm just going to finger press that one over for now. And then match the pair on top. Okay, so here's 4. And then I'll sew another pair, making sure that I got the correct fabric on top again. Do-do-do-do-do. Oh, let me move this rotary cutter, that's why. Okay, then I got my 4s there, so I need more pairs to sew. And once you start getting in the groove of this block goes by really fast. So it just seems like it's a lot of pieces now, but once you get into your quilting zone, everything comes together real quickly. Oh, didn't cut the thread. There we go. Okay, bye Stephanie. Well, she probably left by now. Have a good time at the birthday party. Let's see. Jim. Hey, Jim. Glad you could join us today. He's making 2 baby quilts using Dresden blocks and a Dr. Seuss fabric. That sounds very, very whimsical and fun. Let us know how it turns out, Jim. Finger pressing. I ordered the Safari colorway. I wanted the lightest color so it doesn't get lost in a dark corner. I like the purple one you have, but there are too many dark corners in the winter. Okay, so 4, 8, 10, 12. I need one of these. So you will cut this off. Cut these off there, trim corner. flip it inside out, poke out my the tip there, and turn this out. Okay, poke out the tip there. And I will flip this out. Okay. Sounds like many of us actually made Dresden quilts before. Who is with me and never made a Dresden block before? And this will be your first time. Because this is one of the very few times where I'm actually doing a full Dresden block. I've said this before, but I've done quarter Dresdens, I've done half Dresdens, but I rarely do a full Dresden. I think this is actually one of the very first times I'm actually doing a full Dresden. Whoops, what happened to the camera? Did it power off? Hold on 1 second. I'm just having all sorts of technical things go wrong today. But such is what happens when you go live. Okay, that's better. Not sure what happened there. I think the battery just got lost there. Resetting. Sorry for the camera movement. There we go. We'll sew these two together. Okay, and then we will press this. I'm just finger pressing this down. I could put a smiley face in the center. Yes, I could, Dale. It'd be a very cheery block. Let's see. Jeannie Wallen says, I haven't had the courage to tackle one yet. Jeannie, I hope you got the courage to try it now, because it's really not a difficult block to do. Just that there's a million pieces to it, but it goes by fairly quickly. And there's a million tutorials out there that show how to make Dresden blocks. So I believe Tiffany has a whole video series where she did, she made a Dresden quilt she made a Dresden quilt. So there's a wealth of information that's out there on YouTube. If you do struggle with it, just, ask anyone here, or you could also just check online on YouTube for various tutorials. Joyce Baker says she has made a full Dresden. It was big. It's a wall hanging. Yeah. Yeah, Dresdens can tend to get really big really quickly. So just keep that in mind when you decide what size blade that you want. Again, I'm choosing to do 3-inch size blades because, again, I don't want this particular block to be that big, and I was aiming to go maybe about a 10 or 12-inch size. So yeah, which is why these individual blades they seem small, but when you put it in the spectrum of the entire block, they're going to be pretty large, or the block size is going to end up being pretty large. So just keep that in mind when you decide what size blades you want. Just remember that it's going to be double of what you think. Hey, Teresa Louise. Glad you made it this morning. It was for a hand piece class in the 90s. Wow, hand piecing? I can't imagine hand piecing a Dresden. Okay, so I started sewing them in pairs, and then when I got the pairs done, I started sewing those pairs into 4. Then I started sewing the 4s together, and I get the 8. And let me sew these 4 together here. And I got a bit of a thread tail that I gotta cut off. That there. I learned to make my Dresden blocks from Quilting Magazine. Yeah, Quilt Maker Magazine has a paper template set that I did find. It's a free download that you can just Google, and you can print it out just to make a Dresden, or to give you a template. Since I do have this, I bought this years ago. I never did open it until just recently to make this block, but since I already had that, and I figured a lot of us might have this ruler, you can just use whatever size Dresden that you want, or whatever angle Dresden you want. Okay, and I need, let's see, 8, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Hopefully this will be enough. This should be enough. According to the template instructions, it's supposed to take 22 of them. We'll see. Pressing it over. And then I'll put it on this side. Yeah, this will be a good project to have a leader and ender on the side. Instead, what I've been doing is just sewing on this small little piece of scrap here. But if you got a leader and ender project, most of the time I have some 2.5-inch squares that I'll sew together and make a 4 patch for a future block. In fact, I don't know where that container is, but okay, so now we can get a complete full Dresden. I just have to sew each of the individual parts together. So let's do that real quickly. Now, in certain cases, the when you line up your Dresden, how I'm lining it up is I'm trying to make this particular corner here. Where's my stiletto? I'm trying to make this corner match up. Okay. That's the corner I'm actually kind of lining up. I don't care about the bottom because this is going to get covered up, but I do want to make sure that each blade is somewhat of the same length. But more importantly, I'm looking at this particular corner, making sure that that corner lines up. And I did find that when that corner doesn't line up, it's almost like that's the point you want to match. And when that doesn't line up, then it's the equivalent as like your points on a triangle not matching up. So let's see how we did there. Not bad. Okay, ultimately, no one's really going to see that because this block is, just the layout of the block kind of hides it as well. But okay, we can do that. Okay. Here it is. Okay, so I usually keep this box of 2.5-inch squares nearby. And I just noticed it was sitting right behind my computer here. So I'll just sew off on 2.5-inch squares. I just make a bunch of 4 patches. And did I round out a bobbin thread? Maybe I did. And I've been air sewing. Oh, lovely. Okay, let's take the bobbin out. Nope, there's bobbin. I think I just broke the thread. Okay, let's rethread it. Okay, and then I don't think, yeah, I gotta resew this piece back on. And I'll press this for now. Let's sew another 2.5-inch square together, and we'll just make a few 4 patches and save this for a rainy day project. A lot of times I'll just sew some crumbs together. And that's my leader and ender project. Okay. Hi, Sin. Sin Forrest is stopping by. Glad you joined us today. Says it's looking good. Thank you, Dale. Yeah, that always happens when I'm on a roll. The bobbin will run out. And I'm just gonna make a quick 4-patch as a scrap project here. Now the 4-patch has nothing to do with the actual block, so don't feel like you need to make this. There we go. And I'm just gonna finger press the seams down. Okay, so there's our Dresden blade. Or Dresden plate, I should say. Okay, so what I've found is that when I'm starting to sew the blades together, again, the point that you really do want to match is this inner point there. When the inner point matches, the block will look fine. Now, it doesn't matter if the bottom of the blade matches up, because this is all going to just get covered up by the circle that we're about to do. But I just find that it's this point here that you want to make sure that you line up correctly, or make sure that those points line up. Okay. Now, in terms of pressing, when I sewed the pairs together, or sewed each individual blade together, I finger pressed the seam allowance towards the darker fabric. But eventually, you just want to press all the seam allowances in the same direction. Okay. Now, again, if you want to take the time to press the seam allowances open, you can go ahead and do so. Just make sure that when you do press the seam allowances open, it doesn't peek. Your seam allowance doesn't peek through there, because sometimes it can do that. But I didn't find any advantage of pressing the seam allowances open, so save yourself a little time and just press it down to one side. Just make sure that when you do press it, you are pressing it all in the same direction. On some of the blocks, or on my test block, when I pressed all the seam allowances to each of the dark fabrics, and that added a lot of excess bulk. So I decided to change direction and just press all the seam allowances in the same direction there. Okay, so we're going to take this to the iron, and then we're going to work on the center circle next. Okay, so come into the center circle. So getting started with the center circle. So here is what the Dresden plate looks like thus far. Now, all of these threads that are here in the middle, I'm not going to worry about it because we're going to cover that up eventually. But again, the threads, that if you do have threads that are sticking out here at the edges, those are the ones that you really do want to cut off, because that will show up in the final block. And then again, if you use that the technique where you start a little bit ways down, back stitch, and then stitch all the way down, you should not get any issues with thread tails sticking out here at the edges. Although I do see one here that sort of flipped back, so I'll clip that one. Okay, so the plate has been pressed, but we need to add our center circle here. Okay, so I got a compass. I'm gonna make a circle that is about 4.5 inches in diameter. And so I need to make sure that this compass is 2 1/4 inches open. Now, if you don't have a compass, look around in your kitchen, grab a coffee mug that'll fit the size hole, or that'll be this size circle shape. You don't necessarily have to use one of these devices. I just have this because I have it on hand, and I do use this a lot, so I ended up buying one of these devices. But again, just if you don't have one of these compass, look in your kitchen. Maybe you have a bowl or you have a plate that you can use to trace the circle shape. You just basically want a circle large enough to cover this center hole. For me, that's going to be about 4.5 inches. You can make it bigger or you can make it smaller if you want. The bigger you make it, then the more of the blades that you're going to cover up, and you're going to get a slightly different looking block. So play around with the size circle that you want to make for the center. I've seen some Dresdens where the circle was so big that you basically only have these triangle tops showing up, which is fine. And I've also seen it where the circle in the center is so small that you got a lot of the Dresden blade showing. So play around with that. It does give you a little bit of a slightly different look when you play around with the size circle that you want for the center. But I'm going to make a 4.5 inch center circle. This square here is a 5-inch square that I have, and I'm just going to draw a circle. I'm not sure if this line will show up on camera, but there is a line being drawn. Again, you don't have to use a compass like how I'm using. You can just use coffee mug or plate. Whoops, just lost my spot. And just use any circular object where you can kind of outline or create a circle shape from. Okay, I do apologize. I know this line is probably not showing up on camera. Okay, there it is. Okay, so I got my circle traced out. Yeah, you can't really see it on camera because of the color of fabrics, but it is there. Now, if you have fusible web, steam steam, there's also heat and bond light. There's different products out there on the market that you can use, and basically you're gonna applique the circle down onto the final Dresden. If you saw last week's video, you saw me use a bunch of dryer sheets. Now I got a bunch of these left over from laundry that I've done. And someone told me you can use a dryer sheet to create your applique. So I tested it out in last week's block. And lo and behold, it does work. So I'm going to use a dryer sheet this week. But again, if you don't want to use a dryer sheet and you want to use one of those other applique products where the steam, the heat and bond, or you can also use interfacing. If you want to use one of those products, go right ahead. Just use whatever you're comfortable with. But for me, I'm going to use the dryer sheet since I got a lot of them collected. So I'm going to just take this dryer sheet to the iron just to get it flat a little bit. I'll be right back. Okay, so I got my dryer sheets all nicely kind of pressed down a little more flat. And you know, if there's big holes like this one, I'm not going to use this one because I did notice there's a big hole right there. So I'm going to toss that one to the side. This one's not so bad, so I'm going to use this one, and I'll put the fabric right side down on top of the dryer sheet, and that line that I drew out here, I'm going to be stitching directly right onto that line. Okay. So when you do stitch this, you do want to get it as close to that line as possible. So I'm going rather slow. And when you feel like the line's getting away from you, just stop with your needle down, pivot the fabric, and start sewing again. And let me cut this 4-patch off here. Okay. Again, you don't have to necessarily sew it perfectly on the line. It is okay if you're like a thread or two off, but when you feel like it's going way off, just stop with the needle down, readjust, and you can start sewing again. Just take your time at this. You don't necessarily have to, or just take your time. It's not a race. Okay, and this doesn't take very long to do. And sometimes when you turn your fabric, it's just enough to just maintain or stay on the line. But when it gets really far off, that's when I'll stop. Make my adjustment and keep going. Whoa, going a little fast there. Okay, and we're approaching my starting point. Okay, and right now I'm at the starting point, but I'm gonna overlap my stitches, and we're done. Okay, then I can kind of cut off all of this excess here. I just smell so downy fresh now, my hands. Oh, that smells good. Okay, so I started my stitches here. Started the stitching here, went all the way around. And when I came back to that starting point, I did overlap my stitches right there, which is why you can kind of see it's a little thicker there. Let me hold it closer to the camera. So started here, stitched all the way around. When I got back to my starting point, I did overlap the stitches there just by a 1/4 inch or so. That's just to help secure it down. Yep, I got my smelly fingers again, Dale. Downy fresh. And I'm pulling the dryer sheet away from the fabric. I'm just going to cut a slit on the dryer sheet there. Okay, and I'm going to turn this. Oh, I need a little bit of a bigger hole. Now, before I turn this inside out, I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to trim off all of this excess here. Trim it to about a 1/4 inch away from your seam line that you stitch down. Okay. Oh. Let's trim a little bit off there. Okay, so that looks good. I did cut a hole in the dryer sheet side. Don't cut the hole on the fabric side because that'll be disastrous. So cut your hole, separate the dryer sheet, cut a hole or cut a slit so that you can start turning out the fabric right side out. Let's see. And I'm just getting in there, making sure all the seams are pressed outward. Okay. Did it freeze up? Someone says that it's scrolling. Okay. And I can use my stiletto. I'm just pressing out the, or actually I should use, where's my tool? The pointer tool. I'm just going to press out the seams a little better. Okay. And there's my center circle. Okay. Now I'm going to put the circle right on the center. Just kind of eyeball it. You don't have to get it exact. If you do notice that the dryer sheet or the back of the circle is kind of peeking out, you can kind of press it down a little better, or just see it, make sure that you did press it. You can kind of roll it down and kind of finger press it to hold it a little better. Now, something like that doesn't normally bother me because in the full spectrum of the quilt, you're not going to notice something like that. But using a zigzag stitch can help hide that as well. But this machine that I'm using doesn't have a zigzag stitch. It only does straight stitch and straight stitch only. So I'm just going to do a top stitch as close to the edge as I can get it. If you want to pin it down, you can. I just didn't find any benefit in pinning at this point, but again, we're just basically going to applique this circle down onto the Dresden here. Just making sure that it's somewhat centered before I start doing that. Okay, that looks good. So I can take it to the sewing machine and start stitching. Let me find my little piece of scrap so I do have something to hold on to. Oh, my threads are all tangled now. Okay, let me recenter this. Take it to the sewing machine. Stitch it up. You know what, I better pin it because it keeps shifting every time I move it. So I'm gonna just put a pin here. Yeah, just to temporarily hold it down for now. And looks like my thread is caught onto something. Let's see. Did I get a thread jam? Nope. Yeah, it looks like my thread is nested up somewhere, so let me cut it. And take the bobbin out. It's caught onto something. There it goes. Okay. Yep, the bobbin was caught. Okay, now we got it. Pull up the thread. Okay, now we can start sewing onto the, or appliquing down the Dresden. And I'm just gonna top stitch this down. I'm going as close to the edge as I feel comfortable, or as close to the edge as I comfortably can. And my thread's a little tangled up again. Okay, so here we go. I'm just stitching down as close to the edge as I can. Again, this is one of those things where you take your time stitching. This is not a race, or you don't have to sew very fast on when you do this. And again, when you feel like it's running away from you, like right there, I'm gonna stop, put the needle down, shift the fabric, and then start sewing again. Having a knee lift in these situations, can help you greatly so that you're not having to reach in the back to pull the presser foot up all the time. There we go. Remove my needle and shift it a little bit. There we go. Of course, when I do this, I normally have a matching thread, and I'll match the thread color to the fabric. But in this case, I don't have a red thread, so I'm just using the white, and I don't really care much if the white, or the fact that you can see the white thread doesn't matter to me. So, or it doesn't bother me. Coming up to where I started, overlapping the stitches a little bit, and we stop. I can pull this out, cut my threads. Okay, and I'll sew on another 4-patch here. Let's do this green. Okay. Put that thread tail off for a second. So there is our Dresden. Now getting background fabric. This is what the final block is going to look like when it's all said and done. Okay, so now I'm not going to sew this onto the background, but basically you could applique stitch this Dresden onto the background fabric here. I'm not going to do that on the live. You can basically you get the idea of how to do it. You can use a straight stitch just like how I did the center circle here and just stitch along the edges. Some people I know just stitch right here in the ditch, and that's how they attach the Dresden plate. A lot of people will do a zigzag all around the edges, and they'll do another go round on the center circle. Basically, you just want to applique this the Dresden block down. Again, using whatever stitch you want to use. You can use a zigzag, just do the outside. You know, there's various ways that you can do this. For this, I'm probably just gonna stitch in the ditch here on each of these blades, and that's gonna take time. So I don't want to do it on the live, but yeah, this is what the block is gonna look like when it's all said and done. And when I do get it done, I will put a picture of it on the Facebook group. But yeah, this is the Dresden block. And since we're going on for over 2 hours, I'm not going to do the actual appliquing of the final block to the background. Okay, but it's basically the same. Again, you can just use a straight stitch, and you can just top stitch it on, or you're basically just appliquing the block to the background. So yeah, since we've been on here for 2 hours, I'm not going to torture you for another hour just to do the applique portion of it. Okay, but basically this is the Dresden block that we're going to do. This is block number 46 in the entire series. Okay. Let's see. Let me back up. Okay. So Irish Sail Lady came in. Hello, Miss Irish Sail Lady. First time I'm seeing this with the dryer sheet. I usually buy yards and yards of the thin heat and bond, but you seem to have more control. Yep, so give it a try. I do have yards and yards of heat and bond too, but I wanted to experiment with the dryer sheet since one of my other quilting friends said, hey, you don't need to buy all of that heat and bond. You can just use dryer sheets. And so I figured, okay, let's just try it. What size square are we putting this on? This is a 10.5-inch background square. Again, if you make your blades longer, you probably have to go bigger. But if you kept your blades to a 3-inch, 10.5 looks good, like this. So, what's the mat on your sewing plate? Okay, so this mat here, let me see if I can actually pull it off for you, because I do need to clean out this machine, so I'm going to pull it off anyway. Dale, this mat is called A Seam So Easy Seam Guide. It's designed by Lori Holt. You can find this on Amazon. But basically, there's an opening here. This is where your presser foot and needle goes up and down, but it gives you a guidelines here on the side. So when you do line up your fabric, it helps to keep your 1/4 inch pretty accurate. So these solid lines here is the 1/4 inch marking, so that when I do sew fabrics on, I'm usually lining up like that. Okay. It's called Seam So Easy. It's by Lori Holt. You can find it on Amazon. And then what I do like about this particular seam guide is the fact that, well, number one, it's flat. So if I do have fabrics where there's pins on there, even though they tell you you're not supposed to do this, I can leave the pin all the way up right until the point where it goes, or it starts butts up to the needle. So some of the other seam guides where you use like a magnet, you got to take the pin out way before it starts approaching the needle. So that's why I don't like those particular seam guides. But because this is flat, it's plastic, you can leave if you have a pin, if you have a pin in the fabric pieces, you can leave that pin all the way up to the point where it's approaching the needle. Then you can take it out and remove it. Okay. And I'm not sure what happened to my phone because it all of a sudden went crazy. Or did it just conk out on me? Looks like it may have. Hang on a second there, guys. Sorry for all of this technical difficulty. Yep, looks like the camera just went out. Okay. Anyway, hope you guys can still hear me. Trying to turn the camera on again. I do apologize for a lot of this technical stuff that just never happened before. Of course, it always happens on a live. The camera battery just ran out on me since it's been over 2 hours. And it seems to be overheating, but hopefully you can still hear me. Okay. 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 There's one last thing that I did want to do. I wanted to actually do a giveaway. And if the camera doesn't turn on, maybe we'll hold the giveaway and do it as a... Oh, wait, no, it's powering up. Let's see if it works. Because I need to show you what we're about to give away. But, yeah, always happens on a live, right, Tiffany and Teresa? Something always goes wrong. One of these days, I'm going to have a time where it's going to just be perfect, and I'm going to wonder what's going on. But anytime there's a live, there's always something that goes wrong. Okay. Let's see if I can get this camera to go back on. There we go. Looks like it's coming back. Hi. And we're back. Okay, it looks like the camera's back. So, I wanted to actually give away this tool caddy here. I did find a quilt shop in Hawaii where they had this really cute tool caddy. And so basically what you can do is you can actually, it folds like a folding chair, but in the middle, you know, you can use this as a trash bin for your little scrap pieces, or you could use it to carry your hand projects if you're going to take them, put them on the go. And you can fold it up so that it's flat, and then you can just kind of put this in a larger tote and take this with you. Or you can just keep this on your sewing desk. And I thought this was really cute, so I got these, and I wanted to give it away today. And what's really cool is they got these pockets here on the side, so you can put your seam ripper. You can also put some, you know, carry your scissors around, your cutting tools, whatever tools you need. Even my snips can fit in here. Again, it's portable so that you can take projects with you. Again, you got that big wide open hole there, so you can take all your pieces. And it's like a knitting and crochet basket. Yep, that's exactly what it is from the 60s. And they still sell these in Hawaii. And I stopped at a local quilt shop and I thought this was so cute, so I bought one. I was gonna use it to keep all my tools handy right here at my sewing desk, but it's a little big for my sewing desk. So I figure instead of just, instead of calling it a total loss, I'm gonna do this as a giveaway. So here's how this is gonna work. I am thinking there's 48 of us. Okay, so I'm gonna pick a number between 1 and 50. And just try and guess in the chat what my number is. I'm just thinking of a number between 1 and 50 again, and just start typing away in the chat box. First person to guess what number I am thinking, you are the winner. Okay. So pretty soon we should start seeing the chat box go crazy with people guessing numbers, again, between 1 and 50. And the first person I see that guesses correctly, you're going to be the winner. Okay, so I see 29, 13, 43, 13, 37, 13, 37, 38, 7, 33, 18, 19, 21, 41, 35, 35. Guess more than once, guys, because I don't see the number just yet. 42. Nope, I don't see it just yet. See, 35, 44, 22, 26, 34, 16, 27. There, I saw it, and, well, whose name was that? I did see it, but now let me scroll it back. Let's see who is the big winner, and the number, whoops, now the chat is all going crazy, of course. I did spot it somewhere. but I'm trying to figure who got it first because the number was actually 23 that I was thinking of. And I see Vicky. Vicky said 23. I'm just double checking to make sure that she was the first one to say that, and it does appear that she is the first. Yes. So Miss Vicky Lemire, number 23. Congratulations, you got this. Okay, so Vicky, if you could send me an email, or if you're a member of the Treasure Heart Creations Facebook group, send me a message and let me know where you want me to mail this to you. I'll get this out to you on Tuesday. Okay, but congratulations. And if you don't know what my email is, let me type it out for you on the chat. Oops, people still guessing. Okay, so Vicky, Facebook me, or you can send an email to treasureheartcreations2020@outlook.com. Congratulations. And I'll be sending this out to you probably more than likely on Tuesday. Okay. Well, that's it, guys. Thank you for your very, very long attention today. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. And well, Father's Day in Australia is not till September, so happy pre-Father's Day to all of you out in Australia if you're a father. But thank you guys so much for your very, very long attention. And again, I do apologize for all these technical difficulties. Hopefully they'll get resolved before we go live on the next one. And I have to look into what is going on with my camera situation there. Okay. Patty G, is there a place to get the frame? By frame, I'm thinking you mean this. I don't believe so. Where did I put the tag? But here is the company that made it. Sorry. I don't know if that'll focus in. You can try and look up this company. Okay, the company is called Any Kind Caddy. It doesn't have a website or anything. It's just called a utility caddy. There's different companies that make it too. But just, you might be able to find it online. You might not be. It doesn't list a website here. So you can try and do it. There's similar ones that they might not have like this Hawaiian print fabric though. Okay. Thank you, Cheryl. The reminder of the thumbs up. Hope you guys enjoyed today. Thank you guys for your very long attention and hanging in there with me. And I shall see you on the next video. Right now, as always, what do I always say? Go out and create something.